Are we live?
We are live.
So, folks, welcome to Sally and I's LinkedIn Live. We're just changing the formats around a bit, aren't we? Today, I'm gonna start the conversation off, and I'm gonna try, if possible, lead it. Although Sally will probably take over at some point. No, I'm only joking. So, for those that know us or don't know us, I'm Jo Major, founder of Diversity in Recruitment. I work with TA and recruiters to help them make their recruitment processes more skills focused, control bias, improve the candidate journey, which ties in lovely into what we're going to be talking about. And the wonderful Sally Spicer. I mean, where do we start with your work?
Stop. I'm the co-founder of Talent Included. So we help organizations. We've got two sides of the business. One is consultancy. So we help organizations ensure that they have got market resilient workforces. So a lot of the work that we do is around inclusion and equity in this space, really helping to unpick and rebuild systems that all have interdependencies. We've got a real systems thinking approach to the work that we do to help organizations future-proof themselves when it comes to their workforce, which is so important in this current day because we have got the AI and the automation adoption that's happening. And I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point today.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the business. The other half of the business is the recruitment services business. We focus on placing the individuals into organizations who drive DEI, inclusion, culture, employee experience, talent programs within organizations. And we've also been helping organizations to work to unpick and rebuild their recruitment processes to do just what we're going to talk about today: attract and engage and treat candidates with respect. So I'm going to stop talking.
Absolutely. And we thought, if for those who are new to our sessions, we try and get together at least once a month. Sometimes we have little breaks, but we chew the fat and offer our insight and our advice based on our decades of experience on all things D&I and recruitment and TA. We do focus quite a lot on how we support organizations, and we wanted to just kind of flip that around a bit and talk about something that I think really needs attention. We're probably not going to fit it all into half an hour, but the candidate experience, really spotlighting what candidates really need from us and really want from us at this moment in time. As you mentioned, Sally, with automation and AI, it is my belief that candidates have never felt so abandoned in their entire careers right now. It is like the Wild West. I hear all the time how TA is struggling with the huge volumes of responses. And I just feel that candidates feel they don't feel seen. They definitely don't feel heard. They don't feel understood. There's a lack of human engagement, human experience. There's a real fear that they are getting missed, right, from process. And I think there's an overall exhaustion, right? Exhaustion from candidates, especially the ones that, you know, that I see. And I'm finding that it's starting to create some real challenges for candidates in terms of their mental health and their well-being and how they feel about moving. And I think, you know, if candidates are dipping their toes in the water to see what's out there and what opportunities may be around the corner, they're soon pulling that foot right back out because it's horrific, right? And I do sound dramatic, but I am being dramatic today because it is a horror show, right? And I do think the long-term impact of this, if we don't get our together, is that we won't see the movement that we need as businesses, you know, that especially from underrepresented candidates. I mean, it's not just candidates that we might class as diverse with a marginalized identity. I think it's absolutely everybody. But I am finding that those candidates with a marginalized background are more likely to think about this from an identity perspective, right? From an inclusion perspective, from an exclusion perspective. So I just think this is a conversation around let's pass the mic to candidates. Let's really encourage anybody who's within recruitment and TA right now to just take a little bit of a step back and just to think about, what does it feel to be a candidate applying for a role in your business right now? I mean, I would say, so you could take an even bigger step back and try going through your own recruitment processes or get one of your mates to do it for you. I think, in order to really move forward in a way that's going to work for us, I think we're definitely going to just refocus a bit and get some perspective. What do you think, Sally?
There's so much to unpack there. I think I've written a couple of notes. You mentioned the word missed, right? And the reality is, and I love the drama that you're bringing to this, the dramatic energy you're bringing to this, because I think it's a conversation that no one is really tackling and talking about. And there's probably a couple of reasons for that, which I'll go into. But in terms of the opportunity missed is, I think, where we need to focus on this. And I'll give you some examples. We recruit quite heavily in the D&I space at the moment. I had a text message through from someone I'm representing who had applied for a role directly, and they had got a reject to say, and I had to read this a couple of times because they'd given me a screenshot of an email that they'd had through. There was 25,000 applicants for one job, right? Now, I know the D&I market like the back of my hand, right? I know who's who does what. I understand the nuances. I understand what businesses are trying to achieve or what they're not trying to achieve, as the case may be. I understand the specific skill set that these organizations are going to need, including the amalgamation of roles, talent and people, talent and inclusion, etc., people and inclusion. They have missed out on an absolutely incredible candidate. And
there isn't 25,000 D&I professionals.
But there's not. No, but I need to know why. And this is where it comes down to, everyone has gone all hell for leather, right, to generate these click to apply buttons. Yeah. So I mean, we've talked about this before, and I will continue talking about it until this click to apply button no longer exists, right? They're making it really easy for people to apply, okay? But that is saturating the market. It's absolutely saturating the market, and there's no real accountability. There's no testing. There's no governance. There's no risk around the recruitment practices that we are adopting. It is, and the reality is, it's doing exactly what you said, Jo. It's really discouraging people. It's really making people feel abandoned. Abandoned is the right word.
Abandoned, yeah. And there's also, it's not just the click to apply, though, is it? It's all this automation that candidates have, for what, for 25 quid, you can buy something that, that sends thousands of applications while you sleep, right? Yeah. So it's not just us as employers that are automating stuff, it's candidates that are automating as well. And like I said before, there definitely isn't 25,000 skilled D&I professionals on the market, and what an absolute disaster for that employer to miss out on that talent.
You also mentioned there this kind of identity perspective, and I think it's really interesting, because if you look at it, like, the irony that all the work that we've been trying to do in this space is to mitigate those feelings happening, all right, those individuals experiencing the lived experience, right, of being underrepresented in the recruitment process, being marginalized in the recruitment process. However, everything that we're doing is just cementing and just reaffirming that experience happening. So you've got this kind of double whammy of, actually the market's completely saturated, I'm not seen. And then with the narrative in the D&I space at the moment, or the backlash, or whatever you want to call it, I've banned myself from using that word, that I tend to use it every single day. But it's then reinforcing those individuals either not getting through processes because companies are, we're not focusing on that right now, or that they're not getting through because the systems aren't equitable, they're not fair, they're not inclusive, and in some cases they're not even, they're not accessible.
Can you imagine the filters that there's organizations that are using those, click to apply or are receiving that volume of applicants because of automation. Imagine the filters that they're having to apply. They'll be brutal, those filters, absolutely brutal. They will be screening out so many, and that net's not going to be fine enough. The right people are going to be absolutely lost, and how frustrating. It almost feels like there's this gap between the talent that our businesses need over here and us as an organization knowing full well who we need. It has never been so deep, has never been so disconnected. It's almost like, if I have to have another conversation about problems with volume, right? And if I was running a TA function right now, I'd strip it back to basics. I would be taking out every piece of automation in that recruitment process, apart from like some of the administrative stuff. But I would be going back to that. I would even be tempted to be like, can you send me your CV through the post? Right? No
Bring
joke.
back fax machines, seriously. I mean,
no
that
joke.
was,
No joke. Because,
no,
because imagine how many stamps it's going to cost you to send your CV out 1,000 times in a day. I would be like literally post it. Because like that's what we used to do, and that and there's a process, isn't there, of getting your CV and printing it out and putting it in an envelope and sending it. You're not going to do that on a whim.
But you talk about this gap, right? The gap is getting bigger. And I think what we've got to really understand, again, I'm kind of putting my system thinking hat on here. You've got to understand the interdependencies and why this gap is widening. And I think, there is a lack of accountability in terms of the testing and the iterating of the recruitment process end to end. A lot of the work that we do, Jo, is unpicking that. It's unpicking all these different steps. And I think we were so quick to adopt this AI automation filter, system, whatever we're doing, that we've really lost a handle on this gap that's getting bigger and bigger. And we are contributing to that by the systems that we've adopted and we've integrated.
And what we're being sold as, right? We're being sold by tech is that, we can automate all of this stuff and it will free up your recruiters and your TA people and your hiring managers to have more of that human connection, right? That's always the thing, isn't it? We'll free you up to do the human stuff. But I'm seeing less and less that. I'm not seeing that happening. I'm not, because it's I don't know what people are doing with this free. I don't think it's creating any free time at all, a lot of it. I think it's creating overwhelm, confusion, not being, resorting back to networks, immediate networks. Who do you know? Who's worked for us before? All of those things that go against diversity. It's almost like we're moving away from we've opened the gate, right? We know that diversity and inclusion, equity, and all of that stuff in recruitment is about widening the gate. But it's almost like the gate's been widened so much we can no longer make proper decisions and line the right people up for roles, because we're totally overwhelmed, and I think candidates have lost the stuff that they really value. I mean, what do your candidates value in their recruitment processes that they experience, Sally?
Acknowledgement, seen, respected. I've written a list: encouraged, developed, challenged, made to feel welcome and not part of a conveyor belt. I think we've also really lost sight on individuals wanting to move roles or applying for new roles for stretch, right? For the opportunity to develop, for the opportunity to go and try something new and bring all the skills that they've learned in their career to date, regardless of how limited they might be, to a new sector, a new role, a new department. And what current recruitment processes are doing are completely discounting all of that potential. all of that possibility, because they're not skilled, they're not matching words on CVs, they're not matching the level of X amount of years experience, industry experience, system experience. You know, we've become so obsessed with hitting the ground running, right? Hitting the ground running is just lazy management and lazy leadership. That's all it is, right? Hitting the ground running is essentially saying, come here, do a job for 6 months and off you pop again. How much is this actually costing organizations?
I mean, as a recruiter, I have always looked for candidates where there is a stretch.
But
right,
your clients won't be buying them in today's market, Jo.
Because otherwise, what is the point in moving? Oh, because all you're doing is just moving one person to another employer, right? You're not. We know that when it comes, a lot of people, they want progression and they want stretch and they want challenge and they want learning points. Then they want to evolve. Okay, not everybody, but many people.
I think
because we've become so tick box and process focused and matchy job description CV. There's no way of capturing those critical candidates where the stretch is the thing that will keep them in your business for 3 or 4 years, right? Because you join I've done it before. I joined a business where there's no stretch. That's the one thing that I used to leave for. I was probably stretching. I didn't get it.
It's bored.
And it's boredom. When we're doing something that we can do with our eyes closed, or we can hit the ground running, whatever that even means.
Like, it's so subjective, isn't it?
Interesting and exciting for 5 minutes until we learn, whilst we're learning the dynamics of the new business. But when the job's fundamentally the same as what we've been doing for 3 years, and that is where the role of a recruiter comes in, isn't it? Like a skilled recruiter to be able to really just go beyond what is on a CV and what the ATS or whatever technology you're using is matching. And it's seeing the hype, there's the potential, isn't it? And then being able to understand how that fits in with that leader, that manager, those team behaviors. But everything has become so transactional. I don't know where those conversations are getting captured. And I think whereas we used to be able to pick up the phone and talk to somebody about a job, what's happening to those absolute like gold moments of conversations?
Do you know what? I think that's such an interesting point, right? Because I was thinking about kind of candidate process, candidate engagement, etc., because we've had a couple of instances recently where the candidates haven't accepted the job. And I'm like, I knew they weren't going to, right? They might have looked the best on paper, right? But I knew this candidate wasn't that interested in the job from the first conversation I had with them, right? And of course, I represented them. They wanted to be represented for the job. They were a great match, etc. But it was no surprise to me that they didn't accept the job, right? And this happened with a direct candidate and with one of mine. And it just really got me thinking in terms of it is those little touch points. I think we're so quick to replace and make recruiters more productive, and I want to say that in inverted commas, but actually what we're doing by stripping out all of this stuff is eliminating that natural instinct, that instinct of they're going to be
it's a learned instinct, isn't it?
It's a learned instinct. Absolutely a learned instinct. And I think I think you hit the nail on the head when you started talking. How do we become human-centered again? How do we ensure that individuals who will potentially be joining your workforce, okay, this is the first bit of interaction they're going to get from being part of the workforce that's going to help drive your business forward. How do we ensure that part is human-centered?
I think, and I think anyone who's pausing to reflect on that. I put a post out today to promote the session, and it was like, trying to encourage people to just think about the candidate experience, right? And I think we are so like laser focused on meeting our objectives as a business.
Mm-hmm.
I think TA or recruitment must be becoming a very boring job. Like, what do most people get into TA or recruitment for, right? It's not to program an ATS. It's not to arrange interviews. It's not to manage feedback or manage a process. It's to like engage with human beings that you want to talk to, or you want to tell them about your organization and learn about them and find out more and hang out with them and develop relationships with them. That's But I honestly don't think. Do you think that employers really understand what is going on right now from a candidate's perspective? Do you think employers really stop to survey candidates or to really understand how, what I said at the beginning, that to understand how abandoned candidates feel, how untrusting candidates feel?
I don't think so, no. And I think there's a couple of things that why that plays out. One is capacity and time. Two is accountability. I think what we need to also be really respectful of is when you're working in a TA function, we've both worked in them, we've both managed them before, and I know you do a lot of work alongside them. Their pressures and the pressure that they're under is real, right? Oh, yeah. And in terms of like this time to hire being this key metric that everyone needs to abide by, etc., that is the key metric. The satisfying of your end customer, which is essentially a leader, a recruitment leader within the organization, a recruitment decision maker within the business. Okay, that is your customer at the end of the day. I think there is a real disconnect between that customer, that internal customer, and the market. I also challenge that some of these individuals, the majority of these individuals, have long been in the recruitment process themselves. Okay, so they don't understand how to play in this market now. But I think there's there isn't the time or the appetite to stop and to assess and to understand the candidate journey. As always, and I think this has always been quite fascinating to me in the 25 plus years, I've got to stop saying that soon because it's going to be 30 at some point. 25 plus years that I've worked in the recruitment industry, employment industry, it's never balanced, right? There's always loads of jobs, no candidates, loads of candidates, no jobs. And it's really interesting to see the psychology of how this impacts the market. And it's very, I see that it's organizations are very quick to resume the position of power, right?
That's interesting.
We're in charge. You'll be lucky if you get an opportunity with us. We only recruit the creme de la creme.
Interesting.
If you were to get through this recruitment process, that means you are at the top, and we only recruit the top. Now, I love Stephen Bartlett, right? I think he's great. Listen to his podcast. I mean, some of it is a little bit.
Let's not go down
a rabbit hole. Let's not go down a rabbit hole. The point I wanted to make was he thinks he's amazing at everything, and he has designed this recruitment process that essentially only draws out the top talent, right? Now, I would love it. Maybe actually this should be like a pledge. Let Joe and I into your business, Stephen. Let's see how inclusive and equitable and accessible your recruitment process is. Because actually, it's not. And you're just feeding this monster of, we only want the best people to work for this organization, right? We are only successful because. I don't think that's how you drive business performance.
No, it's almost like, I hate that elitist model of talent. You know, that word that you just used. Oh my God, that creme de la creme. I mean, I don't even know, like, but we only hire the best.
Yeah. The best.
And I just, it's so elitist, and it's so, and the thing is, there are lots of incredible human beings, but the thing is about some incredible human beings, they're quite humble, right? Yeah. And they don't use that language to describe themselves. I would never describe myself as the best of the best or the creme de la creme. If I read that on an advert or if I saw that in, Bartlett's recruitment strategy or whatnot, I would just be like, my own bias in my head would create this vision of a place that's not for me.
Yeah.
Right. They'd be all well educated. They'd be all from certain universities. That they'd be, the heritage would be elite, and all of that nonsense. And I would completely deselect. I couldn't see myself being in an organization with the best of the best. Right. It's just tough.
Yeah. You made a point earlier about this gap, and businesses are wanting this, and this is what's happening on the market. I actually would challenge that businesses know what they need. I would actually challenge that, because a lot of the work that we're doing at the moment is around, having this kind of human-centered approach to a tech-enabled workforce, essentially. AI and automation is there, okay? It's going to continue to be there. Businesses need to adopt it in order to survive. But I think there is a real disconnect in what businesses actually need from a skill set right now and a future skill set, and how they are then going to approach the market to go and assess and attract and recruit that talent. And I think we've become so, and to the point that you made, so process focused. We're like, here's a job spec, that's it. I've written it down on a piece of paper. That's what we need to go out and find. Go and post that advert, change it a bit and make sure it sounds a bit more EVP. Go out to the market, and I want a piece of paper that exactly matches that. And I want that to land on my desk. And I want to interview 5 people, and I want to offer one of them, and I want them to accept, and I want them to be in budget, and I want them to start within my timescales, right? Like we're breaking the recruitment process because of all of these things. We're breaking the resilience of your workforce because of all of these systems and these processes that we have caught ourselves up in, because we are thinking it's the most efficient way to recruit. I think my advice to anyone would be, let's actually do a real audit on what skill sets you're going to need for your business to survive over the next 5 years. Let's start there. And then we can work backwards in terms of that. That's what our North Star, that's what our end goal is. How are we going to get you from A to B? And what do we need?
The thing is, if employers were so organised in their workforce planning strategy, there'd be no need for blooming recruitment businesses, right? And I do think we do have to be more efficient and effective at workforce planning. And I think, when I speak to TA and recruiters, one of the biggest frustration for them is that everybody needs somebody yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't any and there's this lack of a bit. I think we're losing creativity. We're losing our ability to, it's all well and good, right? And you will know this. We're getting people in like us to come and audit your processes and systems. But some of the things that we might recommend, they might take creativity. They might take upskilling. They might take time. They might take,
accountability,
and the need to do things differently, and then it always reverts back to what can we get fast and quick and bums on seats, and maybe we'll pretend that it's not a bums on seats and speed and volume game, but it probably will be. And it's just like, it frustrates me when I see time and time again organizations invest in this kind of like audit route, and yet they're just, it's never going to be whatever you recommend and put in place. It's never going to be efficient enough. This obsession in in efficiency and speed and when we used to recruit, and I'm not seeing the past through rose-tinted spectacles, right? There was a lot of things about recruitment then that weren't efficient, but I just feel that we just need to get back to what really enables us to get to hang out with the best talent. Widen that gate, yes, but then also enable us to be able to spend some time really truly assessing people. Let's learn the art of hiring again. Let's learn the art of recruitment. Let's make sure we upskill our hiring managers to enjoy the prospect of interviewing a candidate and getting to know somebody and spot, brilliant talent, for their team, instead of everybody's just rushing around with bloody CVs attached to clipboards.
Would you say that? Love a clipboard. I've got a couple in my office actually. Would you say then we need to get better at the art of pipelining?
100%, Sally.
Right.
100%. The art of pipelining. And like, you know, evergreen roles and evergreen recruitment, you know, that's what we used to do like back in the day, the art of pipelining, 100%. And looking at the data as well, Sally.
Well, the thing is, we've got the data now, right? We didn't have that before. We didn't have the data before. I mean, we barely used Excel.
Are we looking at the data? Are we actually looking at how long does somebody stay for us? Like, and then do we look at that data and then do we go, right, now let's apply it to who's in the workplace now. Right, realistically, where are we? Are we doing? Some organisations don't even do regular reviews. So if you're like focusing on a pipeline, if you're not doing your regular reviews, you can't spot your what's the word for it when somebody's a flight risk. You can't spot your flight risks. You can't do your workforce planning around people that, you know, are ready for a step up, but there's nothing there for them, so they're probably going to be a flight risk. You can't spot your movers and your shakers. And I think all of these things, it's all intertwined, isn't it? It's looking at your data, understanding your people, making sure you've got your reviews and your appraisals in, equipping your hiring managers with the ability to be able to spot flight risk and to be able to workforce plan. Like workforce planning a lot of the time is just done centrally, isn't it, by TA? But, you know,
or not at all.
Or not at all. Or not at all. And, you know, and then it's just like, you know, passing, you know, then go using, you know, your TA to just constantly plug the millions of holes that keep forming in a bucket.
But I think the irony is that we're trying to embed all this efficiency, but we're not looking at the right thing. We're doing all of this over here and completely ignoring everything over here that is costing us more money than what we're focusing on over here.
Yeah.
You know, and not just money, reputational risk, you know, market share, you know, all these kind of things that we should be focusing our focus on in terms of business disruptors. We're going, well, none of that really matters. That feedback loop doesn't really matter. The experience doesn't really matter. The pipeline doesn't really matter. The internal mobility doesn't really matter. The succession planning doesn't really matter. We're just going to focus on this and try and get as many people and try and get as many applicants. You know, that's the dream that's sold. If you input this, you're going to double the amount of applicants. You don't need to double the amount of applicants. You don't need more. You don't need more applicants. You need to be able to identify what skills your business needs to survive over the next 5 years. And you need to equip your TA team to go out there and find their skills, assess those skills, and your hiring managers to stop doing what they've always been doing and recruiting a certain way and really focus on what the future of their department
and try and improve before it's too late. Your reputation, the way that people feel, the way that candidates feel about your organization. I would be testing the temperature now. If it was me, if I was sitting TA, I'd review everybody that we've worked with. So, you know, everybody that's been through our processes so far this year, right? Or maybe the last 12 months. And I would be wanting to understand people's experience of us, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'd be surveying everybody, right? And I'd be looking at like really learning from that, like really learning from it. And I'd be putting my interventions in, I'd be changing things, I'd be responding to it effectively, not just burying my head in the sand because it didn't make for good reading. And then I'd do the same thing next year. And I'd just be looking at like, how has this improved? You know, some organizations use what's it called? The performance, you know, the indicators, what's it called?
Net performance.
And
net.
And net performance score, NPS.
NPS, there we go.
and NPS, I'd be like, I think that stuff's just so valuable.
I think it is really valuable. And I think, do you know what? I'm just kind of like giving you an anecdotal story here because I think it's the same. The same applies to exit interviews, right? It's almost like we've got this mechanism set up in order to obtain feedback. But when the feedback comes back negative, which is I didn't get the job there, or my boss is an arsehole and so I've left, it's always like, well, they're only giving us bad feedback because they didn't get the job, and they're leaving because because of X, Y, and Z. It wasn't really that their boss was an arsehole. It's because they didn't do this. And, you know, there was, again, it's like this real accountability piece in terms of, you know, seeing it for what it is. I work for an organization, and it was part of the global pack every quarter in terms of the levers, and they were put down as regrettable and non-regrettable. And they used to fudge the figures. They used to fudge the figures because they didn't want it to look like they had regrettable levers. And so they would make up. So when the feedback came in, they would change it, right, to make it look like it was a non-regrettable lever. And I'm like, who is this? Who is this serving? Yeah. Who is this serving? Your ego. Your ego is essentially, essentially the answer.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for. You've got to, like you say, you've got to make sure that you're resilient enough to be able to deal with it. And I think going back to what we were talking about in this candidate experience, I think, you know, this candidate's feeling completely abandoned, and a lot of the time there is no mechanism for them to talk about their experience and how engaging with your brand and your organization has made them feel. And I just don't think I could sleep at night putting my head in the sand and ignoring that. If my recruitment process had given somebody bad mental health, I need to know about that.
100%.
I need to know about it.
If my recruitment process didn't enable me to thrive and show my best self through a recruitment process, shame on you. Because that's what you want to see. Again, sorry, this is my last rant of the day, because I appreciate that we've been really ranty today.
We needed to spice it up.
Like summer holidays energy. My youngest is the last one at school. I think hers is the last school in the whole of the UK to break up. So I've got this kind of like, this is exciting times for us. Anyway, I'm going off piece. The point I was going to make is, right, I have seen this. In fact, if I had been given £1 every time I'd seen this in my recruitment career, I reckon I'd be a millionaire right by now, right? And that is that we do not want candidates to succeed in interviews, right? Let's put them through their paces. Let's do this. Let's ask them these kind of questions. And they are willing. All they want is to phone me up as a recruiter and go, oh no, they weren't right because they. Right? How is this even a thing? Right? Why would you put all this time and money and effort and energy into a recruitment process to set it up for someone to fail? Why wouldn't you want to see
it's not an endurance challenge, right? You remember the Krypton factor back in the day? Isn't the Krypton factor? We should be creating a process where, you know, everybody, you know, people say this, where everybody could succeed, but we know as human beings, when somebody makes us feel good about ourselves, we relax and it brings the best. It's like, you know, when somebody's great at interviewing, or we go to a meeting and the client just makes us feel so relaxed, then they get the best version of Sally, the best version of me, and we just go, your wall comes down, and you just, you know, you all of a sudden, because you're not, you know, worrying about how you present or what you're going to say or what's coming, what's going to be thrown at you. You just, you know, you're just having a human to human like conversation about why you're an interesting human being and why the organization could be right up your street. And I think this.
Can I ask you a few questions, because I want to make sure this is the right environment for me? Yeah, fill your boots. What do you want to know?
Because I need this to be the right environment for you, because if it's not, I'm going to have to fill your seat again. Right? Imagine that.
Oh, we've solved it all, Jo. We've solved it all. Right, I'm glad I got that off our chest. That was really fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think like candidate expectations have always been there, but I do believe that they are evolving. Absolutely. We need to keep as many people in work as possible, right? We need to make sure that we are not investing thousands and thousands into recruitment processes that create overwhelm for our TA and our recruiters, and in the end miss out on amazing talent like your candidate and end up getting shelved, or even, I shouldn't be saying this, or even worse, even more expensive, because you've got to go out to a specialist agency because you can't cope with the volume. right? Some recruiters will be like, no, don't say that.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. I've really enjoyed that.
I've really enjoyed it.
Happy summer. Let's hope that this, this lovely weather continues. We've had some spots of rain in the UK. Let's hope it continues. Let's do this again next month.
Yeah.
For anyone who is watching and listening and watching and catch up, or there's something that you really want us to try and unpack, or even be part of the conversation, drop us a DM.
I think we should get some guests in. I think it's time to invite the guests in.
Listen, that's bloody wang on. Come and share your experience. If you're in TA at the moment, I want to hear from you. Come and share your experiences. Either drop us a note of things that you want us to unpack, or put yourself forward. Come and join us for one of these lives. And we'd love to hear your voice. And let's continue, our mission to make every workplace accessible, equitable, and inclusive.
Brilliant. And also, I love that idea. And also, I think the bit about TA coming in, not the bit, obviously, the bit about inclusive workplaces. And I do think that, if any candidates that are either watching this or watching it back, to actually, feel comfortable to, do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? I'm putting it out there now. I'm thinking about, I'm doing my newsletter, my work recruiter, which I said was bi-weekly, but I've got too much to say and I keep getting tempted to post another newsletter out. But I'm thinking about turning it into a podcast, right? And it's going to be spicy. I think it's going to be spicy if I do go ahead with it. And it's going to be a real, the mic is going to be passed to candidates that have faced barriers, marginalization, prejudice, whatever it might be, for whatever reason. But I don't think in the recruitment space we really get to hear the voices enough of candidates who are work benefits, right? So I'm thinking passing the mic to candidates, but not just, an opportunity for them to get something off their chest, but also we then really dissect, how did it happen? What happened? What went wrong? And then most importantly, we follow it up with 5 top tips so that doesn't happen on your watch, right? The lived experience, the storytelling bit. Then we've got the understanding why it could have happened, what was or wasn't in place that resulted in that experience, and then how do we avoid it? That's my idea. So if you are listening to this and you want to give me some feedback, sorry Sally, I just hijacked the end of our LinkedIn Live.
Don't be silly. I love that. I was engrossed. I'm like, make this happen. Make this happen. I tell you what, let's go crazy and humanize the recruitment process again, Jo, and see what happens.
I mean, I think my idea of posting your CV and dropping it off in person, I don't think that's wasted. Anyway.
So good to see you. I see you in a month. I see you online. I speak to you most days anyway. It's lovely to see you. Thank you everyone who engaged and listened and watched. And we look forward to your feedback. See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Thank you. Bye.